Inside a furniture store, a gateway emerges that leads to a seemingly endless chain of mysterious rooms, occasionally peppered with random objects. This is Backrooms, another 2026 horror movie from a young talent that's finding great success at the box office. Let's dive in. Welcome everyone to Screams After Midnight. I am Peter, and joining me as always is Tim.
Hello. Ahoy there, I should say.
You took an extra second there. I thought he was going to have something funny to say. He's thinking of something, and then you just said, hello.
I mean, it doesn't really lend itself to, like, a ton of memorable catchphrases. Like, I don't know. It's not like there is, like, a big line, like, everyone's yelling, like, yeah, I'm in the back rooms, like, or something.
What, you didn't remember that scene, Tim? That was a big moment. Everyone, they sung a little song about how they're in the back rooms. They did a double feature this weekend. They're calling it Back Sessions, and that's like the most unfortunate sounding mashup title ever. But welcome everyone. This is a horror movie podcast. We get together, we talk about a movie. It's that simple, and we get another new release this week. I'm actually looking forward to not having new releases because it's been like back to back to back these last few weeks. But today we are looking at Backrooms, which is another movie coming from someone who kind of got their start making short films on YouTube. Although notably in this case, it was literally a series called Backrooms, which has kind of turned into this movie. I guess up front, I'll just say I have never seen a single second of any of those YouTube videos. So went in completely cold, completely blind to this one.
Yeah, I mean, I'm 40, and this appears to be a young person's thing. So no shade to it. I mean, I think it's cool that there's, like, you know, a horror thing that young kids are into and everything. But yeah, this is nothing that was on my radar. It's just one of the avenues coming up now. Like, clearly, I mean, based on Nissan Obsession and even Iron Lung early in the year, which we've not gotten to yet, but we will soon enough, is the idea that making shorts on YouTube can lead to movies, and that's just kind of something that's there now. I mean, it's really no different to how things used to be done with making short films before you made feature films. It's just now there's a platform to put it on and have people become fans of it before you even make your first movie. And that's kind of what this is to an extent. So, Kane Parsons as the director in question of this one. And this was also kind of the second part of the young upcoming horror movie director debut film hype after Obsession. Passenger being the shit in the middle that no one wants to talk about, including us, but we talked about it anyway last week, so go check that out. It is funny because I keep seeing people share things like, oh man, horror films or horror fans are having such a good month between, you know, Hokum and Obsession and Passengers and now Backrooms. I'm like, well, you can just leave Passengers out of that. Like, you know, it's still a really good month. I mean,
speaking of internet humor, this is an old ass meme, but what's popped into my head is the not you meme, where you're like, this one and this one, not you, this one.
Yep.
that's what Passenger is. So yes, we'll start spoiler free, of course, as we always do. We'll give you a warning before we get into spoilers, and if you're enjoying the show on YouTube, hit the like button. It helps out a bunch if you do. Give us 5 stars in the podcast app. If you want to support the show and get some bonus stuff, you can do that over at Patreon or via YouTube membership, but I'll tell you more about that at the end of the episode. So, what is Backrooms? Backrooms is about a mysterious area, I guess we'll call it, which are the titular backrooms that basically you can access via a portal in a wall, and they're creepy, they're kind of seemingly infinite, and they just go on, and it's like a bunch of empty office building looking rooms, although occasionally a little bit weirder than that. And I'll just leave it there. But that's the gist of it. I didn't know anything about this until I saw the first trailer, but the trailer was quite interesting. It was like, oh, okay, this is a unique concept. This is not just a ghost in the house or a slasher killer. As much as I love a good slasher killer, this is, none of those things. It's got a creepy, eerie kind of vibe, and was feeling hopeful. Were you excited for this one, Tim?
I was. Again, I didn't really know anything about it. And then I think when I had just kind of heard, I guess just like, not even, plot details or anything, but, the headlines were like, oh, like, this young kid is like getting all this money to make this movie, and it's based on this popular YouTube thing. And like, when I was hearing all that kind of buzzy stuff, I was kind of like, it's not really making me too excited for the movie. But then, like you said, when I saw the actual trailer, I was like, oh, this looks like it actually has like some style to it, and it looks like cool and interesting, which is, I feel like a lot of the headlines and stuff were kind of doing it maybe a disservice. Again, maybe that's just like the old man in me when I'm just hearing like, oh, young kids making a movie. I don't care. But yeah, the trailer looked good.
Yeah, I don't think any of those headlines were inherently negative. I think you just were being grumpy about them.
Of course, yeah. No,
okay.
I mean, yeah,
as long as we're admitting that.
Yeah.
All right. Yeah, I mean, it looked unique enough where I was like, okay, I'm intrigued by this. And then the weird thing is about how this is lined up, where we got Hokum, which was not a first time movie. It's a third time movie, but we had that, and then Obsession is that, like, I was very much in the mood for another good horror movie. Like they kind of like they lined me up here quite nicely. It's a hell of a run. So. Yeah, I mean, obviously, we'll get into all the spoilers later, but we'll just get our general feelings out of the way first. Tim, what did you think of Backrooms?
So, it was kind of funny because I go to the theater on Saturday night, and I get there and I sit down, and there's a person to the left of me, and they're eating some popcorn, and there's a person sitting on the right to me, and they have some Sour Patch Kids, and I see this couple walks in, and they have like some nachos with some cheese for dipping, and there's like an usher in the back, and he has some Kit Kats.
You've set the scene. You've sufficiently set the scene, Tim. We don't need to know every person in the room when you were watching the movie.
Well, I guess the point I'm making is that I realized I accidentally walked into the snack rooms, not the back rooms.
What? That was a joke? You were just setting up for a dumb joke? At least make a joke about a casting couch or something, Tim, but no.
Well, see, it would have been funny if you would have let me keep going, because I was ready to get
really
into.
I'm calling it. It wouldn't have been any funnier. What do you think of the damn movie, Tim?
Here's the thing. I do think it was pretty good. I am a little nervous because I don't know. I feel like it's a situation where people might think like I'm being a bit negative, or I didn't like it because I like it, but I feel like I'm maybe not as in love with it as I feel like I'm seeing other people. So I don't know. I feel like there's been a lot of people that are like, oh my god, like another like one of the best horror movies of the year. That maybe again it's like a lot of like the younger people seeing it that like the YouTube series or whatever. But I mean, I think there's a lot of good stuff about it. I think it's directed pretty well. It looks good. There's some really I thought all like the actors like gave really good performances. I think my problem is there might just be a little something missing in the story for me. I don't know, like ultimately, again, I liked it, but I think when I left it, I was like, okay, that was good. And there was like stuff it left me thinking about, but I don't know if it's unfair to compare it, but I feel like that's what, a lot of people have been doing, like comparing it to Obsession and stuff. Cause again, like similar, stories of, these young YouTube filmmakers and stuff, making these big movies that, people are getting really excited about, and that's great and everything. But I don't know, I feel like when I left Obsession, I was a bit more hyped, like, oh yeah, like, oh man, that was great and stuff. And like, here is more like, okay, cool. Like I definitely see what they're going for. And there's like a lot of stuff, I really liked about it, but, I don't know. I might be, am just not on cloud nine as much as some people. Again, I feel like people might interpret that as being like, oh, you hated it or something. Like, no, I really liked it. Just maybe wasn't as much of a home run as some of the other movies like we saw earlier this month, like we were talking about. But I mean, it's cool. There's a lot to discuss. Again, kind of hard to get into a lot of nitty gritty stuff without, going into spoilers, but
it's kind of weird because it's almost like, as much as I said Obsession kind of teed this up because everyone's in the mood for horror movies right now, everyone's kind of hyped about it, they're doing well at the box office, all that other stuff. This had a phenomenal opening weekend, which is weird given that it is this relatively small budget, first time director, first new IP. This is not some sequel to anything, and still it made over $100 million at the box office worldwide opening weekend.
Yeah, I could be wrong, but I think they're saying that it broke. Was it like a record for maybe indie non-IP horror opening weekend or something like that?
I mean, I think it was a record for A24. This is their biggest opening weekend they've ever had. So,
and then and again too, I think they're saying along with that, Obsession too, I think is breaking some records where they're saying the amount it went up on its third weekend or something is
a record
or something.
Obsession's having an insane run where it's going up weekend to weekend, and that normally does not happen outside of Christmas, and it's doing weird stuff. But anyway, the even more streams later on might be a bit more about that, so I'll leave my thoughts on the table. Backrooms is very good. I think it's a very good movie. I think it, as much as what I was getting at there is that as much as Obsession's kind of teed it up, it's also a little bit of a disservice to it because Obsession arguably is what's the pretentious way I phrase this? Obsession is a once in a decade kind of defining horror movie, right? It's I think most people really like it, if not love it, and maybe think the quality's up there. But even if you not think it's your favorite horror movie of the last 10 years, it's probably hard to argue, even just a few weeks after it came out, that it's kind of defining. And we're going to same way you think, the 2000s was Paranormal Activity, and 2010s was the Conjuring verse. This decade, I think, is kind of going to be defined a little bit by Obsession. Backrooms comes out 2 weeks later, and obviously they kind of go hand in hand with this story of young filmmakers and new horror movies that aren't just sequels and whatnot. But the comparison's going to be there, and Obsession is both all of those big kind of modern genre defining success story things, but it's also really good. And it's also really good to just about any audience. Obsession's kind of a crowd pleaser, which is why it's getting so much good word of mouth and repeat business. I think Backrooms, by comparison, is very cool. And I think it's a weirder movie. I think it's, I wouldn't quite call it an art house movie, but it's definitely veering towards the surreal and other ideas. But it's, I don't think it's going to be as pleasing to a general crowd to the same extent, would be my guess.
Yeah, and you're bringing up a good point earlier where, it does feel like a bit of a disservice, having them so close together, because, again, I'm saying I enjoyed the movie. I'd even say I enjoyed it quite a bit, but, there's maybe a little bit less excitement coming out of it versus where, if we saw this in February or March or whatever, it probably would have been oh, man, can you believe it? This is nuts.
Yeah, it's framing's everything. If this had been a few months ago before a couple other movies, I'd have been oh, what a start of the year! This was a great weird time, and I'm super excited. Because I think the movie's eerie. I like the premise. I like kind of some of the kind of lore that it tries to build. Although, admittedly, it does kind of keep itself pretty reserved on that front, in terms of how far it goes with any of it. I think visually it's a very good movie. I think it's interesting that it chooses to have some what I'll call found footage segments, but it's not tied to it for the whole movie by any stretch. It does it for a couple of effective sequences where it makes sense, and then it has good traditional cinematography for the other parts, and that kind of separates certain segments out, and it makes things feel quite distinct. I guess the thing this movie has that Obsession doesn't have is more established actors in roles. So we got Chiwetel Ejiofor, who's here, who's a veteran at this point, who plays Clark. we have Mary, the therapist character, played by Renate Reinsve. I cannot pronounce her name, but she's not an unknown. Now, admittedly, this might be her first kind of like super mainstream American movie, but she was in Sentimental Value and I think, was it called The Worst Person in the World? Was maybe the title of the movie? But she's done a couple of really successful foreign films in the last like 5 or so years. So she's like a known person. And then Mark Duplass is in here, who's kind of like a you know, a kind of a cult favorite type guy. Also. Question for you, Tim, because the answer for me to this is no. But did you notice Catherine Isabel in this movie?
Oh, no, I don't think so.
Yeah, apparently there's like a very quick scene at one point where Mary's got like a house party or something, and she talks to Catherine Isabel like for like 5 seconds. Oh. And I'm like, I did not see her.
I remember the house party scene, but... Yeah, I feel like, I mean, obviously, you know, she's pretty recognizable. I feel like I would have clocked that, but yeah, it must have been pretty quick, or
yeah, I mean,
just looked very different.
It's basically an extra, because I was looking at the IMDb before we started, and I saw her name, and it was like, Catherine Isabel plays Robin, and I'm like, who's Robin? Who is Robin? And I had to like go searching, and I'm not the only person who asked this, because there was definitely Reddit threads of people saying, where was Catherine Isabel? Who is this Robin character? Who is she?
Okay.
So yeah, she was there in a tiny role. But no, I mean it's really a two-person, like there's 2 leads, and then like Duplass and some other characters are supporting roles, but there's really 2 main characters. And you know, this is a movie that it's, you know, again, it's got more of a focus on kind of like being kind of like a think piece, where it's like, okay, the main character is a therapist, and we're going to hear her give sort of like some therapy advice as we see some of these montages and things like that, and we're going to you know, kind of prod the brain into thinking about what we're talking about. It's not as on its sleeve as far as like what its themes are, as that's not to say that it's like super obscure either. I think its main themes are pretty like easy to get, but it's definitely going for something a bit more like, oh, you have to actually think about this in a cerebral way to sort of get what it's saying. But all the scenes in the Backrooms are very effective. I mean, if anything, the surprise I had was that it does take a little bit before we... I mean, obviously, there's an opening sequence in the Backrooms, which is kind of like a sort of little prologue kind of taste of what's to come. But there's like actually a fair bit of build-up before you get into the Backrooms proper, just setting up the characters. So I can see some people thinking that's maybe a little bit on the slow side, but I was kind of enjoying the build-up of them a little bit.
Yeah, I mean, I'd message you like right before the movie started, because I was so tired that night, and I was worried that like, oh, even if I like the movie, if it is kind of a slow burn, am I gonna start nodding off? But I mean, I think it, you know, does a pretty good job of, you know, holding your attention, even if like there are times maybe it's a, you know, bit slower or whatever. But I don't know, I think it always looks good, and again, the performers are really good. That, you know, like it's not like I was, you know, at any point like, oh, when are they gonna get to the Backrooms? I'm like, okay, no, I'm like enjoying watching, you know, these people.
From like a production sort of standpoint, I do think that while this is relatively low budget compared to obviously your big blockbusters, it does have a bit more money behind it than our low budget horror movies, because like all these like areas in the Backrooms where it's like, oh, we have to have, you know, this set, or we have to, and I'm sure there's some digital trickery here or there to help out with it for sure, but like just something as simple as, oh, here's a room filled with like 20 identical couches. I'm like, damn, you had to get 20 identical couches and like, you know, put them in this room. Like, I like the surrealness of that, of like, it's not just something obviously creepy, it's like the effort to the bit that makes it creepy.
Yeah. Oh no, for sure. I think that was definitely one thing that caught my eye. Was just like, yeah, the production value on the movie was great, and then yeah, I'm sure like they probably fudged things here and there, but you know, it all seemed like, oh, these are like, you know, real sets with like real items. Like, you know, you can tell like it just looks better than, yeah, if you just had 2 characters walking on like, you know, a green screen the whole movie or whatever. And Yeah, I was actually pretty curious, like, how they did that. I'm like, okay, did you just have like a giant warehouse with like a bunch of different rooms, or did you basically just have one room that you just kind of like, kept replacing stuff in or whatever,
Yeah, I feel like there's no way they had like all these rooms separately. I feel like they had like some movable walls and stuff to change the shape of the set and whatever, and maybe they had like enough for like 2 rooms at a time so they could have people walking from one to the other kind of thing, and just constantly move things around is the best guess I would have, because so much of it's the same color. There's a few exceptions, but so much of it's that same kind of pale yellow kind of, and the carpet's the same. Like, you can sort of tell how, we could probably like move things around and recreate, because it's effectively the same. It's like a video game with assets. It's the same assets over and over again, just moving around. Mm-hmm. So that works.
Yeah. So we haven't really mentioned it yet, but I'm not. This is like a term that I'm not sure like if I could accurately describe it, but like I guess I kind of know like the feel of it. But they say this is like a liminal kind of horror or whatever, which is like I don't know if just like a big part of that is just kind of like turning very like mundane kind of stuff on its head, or like kind of embracing like maybe this like slightly older like era of technology or something. But yeah, I mean, I thought this was, I feel like we've done a couple of other like quote unquote liminal horror movies before that I haven't really dug, but I mean, this was clearly like the best example of that I've seen.
It's not a word I use often, I have to admit, is the word liminal.
Yeah.
It's kind of just this idea of like stuff that's just slightly out of the ordinary, or stuff that's just sort of on the periphery that you're not quite comprehending, and that's what makes it creepy. It's kind of like it's like the physical space version of, how like when people wear like a sort of just slightly see-through mask, but it just slightly distorts the face, and how that's like much creepier than just a regular mask. It's kind of like that. It's just slightly distorted version of normal stuff, and that makes it feel kind of creepy and weird. I mean, in the movie, it's even described as, it's kind of like if someone tried to recreate something that they'd seen but didn't get all the details right. In the movie, the example he says, it's like if you ask someone who'd never seen a dog before to describe a dog, or draw the dog. And I think that's kind of like, and that stuff's quite interesting once you start thinking about it on that level, and like, what does that mean about this place, and like, it's just all these different objects that are kind of sticking out of places, and whatever, like, because there's a little tease of that in the trailer. You kind of see like a mannequin kind of sticking out of a wall at one point, and like that stuff's like, okay, that's kind of creepy, and it's kind of interesting that it isn't just a bunch of empty rooms. There is eventually some stuff in here. And why is there stuff? Where is it coming from? What does this stuff mean? Is there a purpose to it? Like, so on and so on. So that's all stuff we'll get into in spoilers, obviously. But I like that it's just kind of this weird concept. And I know this is something that started on 4chan, and it's one of these sort of internet creepypasta things where it's like, this like thing that just kind of kept going. It's not really a scene that I was ever into or really know much about, but there is something to the idea at its core concept of just kind of this space with a slightly off reality that we can't really understand or explain. And the movie even kind of plays with that on a slightly meta level as well, which we'll get into. But yeah, I mean, I had a good time. I think the ending's interesting. I feel like when it was drawing to a close and I realized, I think this is ending, I can see the ending not going down well with normies. I think I kind of like the ending as someone who likes, more arty movies, and I like, I'm a cinephile, dare I say. I think a normie might be like, wait, that's the end. You didn't explain everything. I want explanations. I want a bombastic final set piece, or, whatever you want.
Yeah, it's kind of weird, because we'll get into it with spoilers, but there is, I'm trying to think how to describe it, because I don't want everything explained. Like, yeah, it would have been annoying if they're just like, well, we've determined that the Backrooms is this, blah, 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 and then they go into like, some big exposition scene or something. Like, I definitely don't want that, but there's like a thing that they introduced that I'm like, well, I kind of want to know more about that. but and it's not even like necessarily specifically the Backrooms, because I actually do think you get a pretty good explanation for it. Like, again, maybe people need like a very like, no, I want a character to say this is literally what's happening or whatever. But I think like, oh yeah, that we pretty much know what the deal is at some point. But then, yeah, when we're at the end, I mean, I guess I can say it without really spoiling it, but basically I kind of wanted to know more about Mark Duplass's character.
Sure, yeah.
And like, not even necessarily like, again, needing him to explain things about the backroom, but I'm kind of like, well, I kind of want to know how your character is more involved in all this and whatnot. So that was like the one thing that, like, I don't want to say annoyed me or anything, but I was kind of like, oh man, I'm kind of bummed that maybe we didn't get a bit more of stuff about that.
Well, I mean, you got to leave some stuff for potential sequels, Timmy. And I feel like that's that particular side of stuff. I feel it's the sort of stuff that you could really like flesh out in a sequel.
For sure,
you could really focus it from that perspective. In another movie. Now, I don't know if Parsons wants to do sequels necessarily, but he did do a lot of web episodes for it, so he clearly had a lot of ideas. And I don't know. In fact, hell, maybe that stuff is what maybe the web series does a lot of that stuff. I mean,
sure.
It's entirely possible the web series is entirely from that perspective. I mean, I don't know, but yeah, I mean, it chooses what it wants to focus on. It chooses that it wants to sort of like, set up these characters, have it be about them and what the Backrooms means to them and represents for them, and then everything else is kind of a lot left to the imagination, but with a lot of style and a lot of creepy imagery and stuff. So it definitely looks like unlike any other horror movie. You know, like it really makes that empty, bright, like office space feel quite creepy, which is not like a common thing to think is creepy, outside of just the dread of having to work, I suppose. But that's not quite the same thing. Yeah, I like the. I mean, honestly, it wasn't as prevalent as I thought it was going to be, but I did like the music whenever it did kind of stick out to me. There's kind of like a little. I think it's like a little vocal thing it does. It's in the trailer as well, where it's like yeah. Like it does this little. The voice thing in the background, but it sounds like it's on a loop or something, so it's a little bit unnatural, and it kind of fits the vibe of everything that it's going with. All right, well, I think we can get spoilers then for Backrooms. So you've been warned, spoilers from this point forth for Backrooms. Let's get into it. The opening's like an extended like found footage style POV camera of someone. And some kind of hazmat suit is quite clear. Not at first. It kind of takes a little while before you see their hand or whatever. But it's basically here's a horror sequence in the Backrooms to give everyone some excitement before we start setting up the main characters, and so on. But the thing that stuck out to me here though was, and there's a couple of things I didn't know about this going in, even though I'd seen the trailer like 5 times because it kept playing before movies. Is this idea of like, oh, there's people that have been in here researching it. There's been scientists or someone in here, and they're in hazmat suits, and they've got like rigs set up with cables in a control room, and they're doing all this stuff, and that's who this character's a part of. And he's running from something. He saw something that scared him because he went in deeper than he's ever been to the Backrooms, and he's on the run. And it does some of the early creepy stuff where like a bird flies out of one of the hallways and like smashes its head on the wall, and we get just the glimpse of some sort of tall figure with what looks like a white head, like coming from a distance, and it's just the briefest of glimpses of teases in like silhouette. And this guy does the found footage thing where the camera falls over and he's clearly grabbed away, which didn't bother me because it's the opening scene. This is the tease for the rest of the movie. This isn't the ending of the movie, which is why that normally pisses me off. Just for the record.
Oh, for sure, yeah. And it's all like well done. Like I think it all looks good, and like you're saying, I like that. It does a good job of just giving you like a little glimpse of something, which makes it creepy enough. Versus like if it just like comes out and has a big jump scare and goes like blah, like it wouldn't be that effective. But just kind of seeing it like off in the corner of your eye was really good.
And you maybe hear a couple of footsteps or something like that. You hear some build to it. So this is all like 4x3. This stuff, it's all like super VHS looking, intentionally so. and it's clearly set. It comes up at the start saying like June 1990 or whatever it is, and I was like, oh, so this is like people were in here years ago before the main story. However, I did not know the rest of the movie was also set in this time period. Because I was thinking during this scene, oh, we're going to skip ahead to present day after this. Like, oh, people were researching this decades ago and it's still around. But that's not what we're actually doing. Yeah. Now, thematically, this actually like all makes sense. Like once we get to the end of the movie, I was like, oh yeah, it makes sense why you set this in the 90s. I totally get it. But I didn't know that going in, so I was actually surprised when I was like, oh wait, because when it skipped to the main characters, I was like, I didn't really think about it. I just assumed it was present day for like at first, and then like I saw the car like Clark was driving, and I was like, oh, it's an old car. No one's got a phone. Wait, is it still the 90s? Yeah. And then obviously by the time you see some other characters and you see a couple other things, or you see the TVs they're watching, I was like, oh no, I think we're still in like 1990 or thereabouts anyway.
Yeah, for a while I wasn't sure if, like you're saying, like if it was present day, but if they're just kind of making the choice to, like be like, oh yeah, like, these are characters that don't have like, they're a bit more down on their luck or whatever, so the cars are older or whatever. But, yeah, like even I feel like, even if, you're don't have a job that like makes a lot of money and stuff, like most people still have smartphones or like cars with yeah, I feel like most cars don't have like like cassette like consoles or anything anymore, and it's kind of funny because I don't know much about the whole like liminal horror kind of subset or whatever, but I do feel like an aspect of it is I feel like
people
being kind of obsessed with like outdated technology and stuff, so I don't know if it's kind of trying to echo that. But it is kind of funny because like I was just seeing a lot of this stuff, it's like, oh, it's kind of making me feel like nostalgic seeing these old like CRTVs and like these crappy like commercials and that kind of thing.
Yeah, I mean, you're absolutely right that old technology, like I always talk about how there's something about like the sound of a static signal is way creepier and way more interesting than anything digital. Like, there's something in the mist or the fuzz of the screen or like between these frequencies you'll hear a rogue signal or whatever. All that stuff's interesting. But I think, like, for me, the reason why this movie's set in the 90s is because one of the big things that comes up later on about the Backrooms is that it's all kind of about memories and memories being kind of off. And I think setting this in the 90s is kind of like, well, that's 3 decades ago, which is old enough that it's like, yeah, it's a bit fuzzy. Like, especially for, like, the prime target audience who are our age or even younger, is that we were kids in the 90s. We were like not even double digits in a lot of cases. So our memories of the 90s while we were around is very, incomplete. It's very kind of like hazy and just like kind of vague ideas. And it has this kind of weird nostalgic kind of like haze to it. And I think that's why this movie's set in the 90s, because one of the big themes of it is like how we remember things and how it does get a bit weird and foggy. So I think there's a strong thematic reason why it's set in the 90s, because there's not really a like an in-plot reason. There's not like, oh, it had to be the 90s because this thing that happened in this time period is important for the story or for any other reason like that. It's purely just a thematic one. It's like, no, this fits because of what we're doing with the Backrooms and like what it's about. So like all of that made sense to me by the time we got like near the end and we were starting to discover what the Backrooms kind of is. Not that we ever understand it completely, but just that, we get like more of an idea of like how it works and why it's, or not why, but like how it's doing something.
I agree with that. That all makes sense. Like, I don't think I was like thinking of that like specifically, but yeah, just in a general, like, I don't know. It definitely wouldn't feel the same if it was, like, 2026 during the movie. Like, I don't know, the 90s kind of feel and all the stuff surrounding it. It definitely works in its favor.
And then they play on that as well, because we see like all the opening like movie like studio logos are all in this kind of like VHS kind of old computer style of graphics. In fact, when that prologue ends, it cuts to like a TV where that footage has been playing, and we just see like the reflection of a bunch of scientists. And that was interesting to me, because that was something the trailer didn't hint at all, was like, oh, there's like a Dharma Initiative style like laboratory who are investigating this place. Maybe they created this place. Who's to say? But that was kind of where my thoughts were at the time. But we have two main characters. We have Clark, who owns the department store, the furniture store, played by Chiwetel Ejiofor, and he is kind of down in his luck. He's a bit depressed. He's got a drinking problem. He's going to therapy, and he has a lot of kind of basically unchecked rage and kind of feelings about the fact that he was in a marriage and his wife kicked him out, and he has a lot of baggage to come with that. And the store's not doing that well either, so he's frustrated on that front. And our main character is Mary, who is the therapist that he's seeing, and she has her own baggage from childhood. It's a little bit vague early on as to what it is, which is all these little flashbacks with her and her mom, and she's kind of like, treasuring her past. The implication by the end seems to be that her mother had some serious mental health issues, and that she, as a child, got her committed, and that kind of set her on her path to being a therapist. And that's kind of like the guilt of that's what's kind of eating at her throughout the movie. So that's our two main characters. I guess, I mean, I suppose we should, like, part of me just wants to jump straight to when he finds the Backrooms, or talk about the teases for the Backrooms, which is, oh, this is weird, like the electricity in the stores acting up and doing funny stuff, or why is there 3 random switches in the breaker box that are just kind of at a diagonal at the bottom that don't make any sense, kind of thing.
Yeah, that's pretty weird. Like, I wasn't really thinking about that too much, but I mean, well, obviously, like at the time, I'm like, oh, like, as I'm watching the movie, I'm like, oh, this is weird, and then obviously those will have something to do with the Backrooms, but yeah, I kind of forgot that detail about the switches, which it's weird because I guess, I mean, that seems like something from the backroom, but it's not like in the backroom, because that seems to be still in the store proper.
Yeah, I mean, I kind of took it as like, oh, this is right next to the entrance, so like there's a little bit of overlap, there's a little bit of bleed through of like, what goes on in the back rooms kind of thing. But, and we also see him recording his commercial where he's doing like a cheesy pirate character, because he's, it's like, what's the name of the store? Clark's?
Ottoman Empire. Oh, Captain Clark's Ottoman Empire.
Yeah. So his whole thing's he's a pirate in the commercial, so he's got... his like employee's boyfriend's got a video camera, and he's like filming like this commercial for him, and he's like got a peg leg, and he's wearing the hat, and he's doing the whole thing, and he falls down and he gets angry because the chair he sits on breaks. So he's got a bit of a temper, and there's nothing to suggest that he's ever been violent per se when he's in therapy, because there's like a long therapy scene where they sort of play out the night that he got kicked out of his house. And one of the lines that he says, which kind of stuck out and I think was a big sign for going forward, is that, I should be alone because I always end up hurting people. I don't want to, but that's just kind of who I am. And I don't think he meant physically. I never took that to mean that he ever hit anyone. It was more just, he always, gets mad. Relationships always turn toxic, that kind of thing. So he's a bit of a loner boy now. Then a big theme of the movie for him is that he kind of blames everything else for his problems. He's got a drinking problem, but he blames work being bad for that. He gets kicked out of his house, he blames his wife for that. He never takes responsibility for what his own problems are, and he's kind of happy to never accept that. He's kind of happy to be in the same place, which is another big theme as we go through here. I don't know if he's like permanently staying in the store, but he's kind of like sleeping in one of the show beds like at night, and he's watching TV, and the TV turns off. He gets mad first of all because they're the commercial that comes on is another furniture store, and it's like a guy who's got like a cowboy like character, and I'm like, damn, early 90s was a wild time for people trying to sell furniture. All these goofy characters really is quite something.
Yeah, I mean, again, that kind of like harkens back to a thing that, you know, we don't really see that much anymore of like these, you know, like old school style. Like, I feel like we still see these commercials, but now they're just like, you know, some random person finds them and it's like, oh my God, this is hilarious, and like posts it on YouTube or whatever now, and kind of feels like, I don't know, it's in that spirit of those like random found footage stuff that, you know, we all laugh at, but we don't really like see anymore.
It's a wild time, because I assume these are like local, because there's no point in putting this out nationally, right? So this will just be like a commercial that plays on local stations, I would assume. Especially since I don't think they could afford to play it nationally. I'm pretty sure that like this store of this size is only paying for like a couple of slots, maybe over a week or something. I don't know. He goes down, he gets mad, he goes down to check the electric box, and he sees like a shimmer of light. It's almost as if it's like an edge of a door in the wall, and that's what makes him go over and, you know, put his hands up against it. He falls through, gets out of the Backrooms for the first time, and we get our first long extended sequence of him going, you know, he obviously goes in and out a couple times to test it, which, yeah, that makes sense. You'd be like, oh, can I get back out? He does. Okay, he goes back in. There's a giant pile of furniture that's all just kind of in a bundle in the middle of this room that's there to begin with. And notably, he goes to pick up like a chair, which is kind of upside down on another chair, but they're stuck together. And he's like, oh, that's weird. So again, some of these like weird details. Actually, one of the things that I was thinking of, and obviously when this was all first conceived, this wasn't what the point was, but this idea of all these details being wrong, like the chair's been stuck together, like the stop sign that's in the next like part of the back rooms is backwards, so it's like pots, it says, instead of stop. It's almost like AI. Like AI's messing up. Like it's tried to make you know, like a, I don't know, a video game world, and it's just completely messed up all these details. Because it was making me think as well, and I also compared this to AI when I watched it, but are you familiar with Solaris, Tim?
Is that a game?
No, it's so there was a remake in like 2002 with George Clooney, but the original film was Andrei Tarkovsky was the director, and it's a movie about like a therapist type character who's sent out to a space station that's orbiting a planet called Solaris because something's went wrong, all the people are not responding on the station, and he goes there to check them out. And it's like it's a really in-depth, like big themes type of movie. It's really, I think it's fantastic, but it's definitely like an art house film, like lover's dream. But one of the elements of it is that the planet kind of creates like people from your memories, and like people who have died specifically. And like when this main character's wife shows up, there's these little details that don't quite make sense. Like the clothes are kind of like attached to her skin, and it's because it's this alien like planet or whatever you want to call it. Like it's recreating the visuals from his mind, but it doesn't really understand that these are clothes, you know, and not connected to the body, and like, oh, this is like a weird AI gone wrong detail where it doesn't understand this sort of thing. So I was thinking of that a little bit as I was watching this, especially once we get more of an idea of like, oh, the Backrooms is creating things either from memory or from the world, and it's getting them wrong, and it's almost like it keeps doing it, and the more it remembers them, the more the details get messed up, and the more they start being really weird or sticking out of walls, or like at one point there's like a sort of counter, but the counter goes on like down an entire hallway, or something like that. You know, just these weird like they're just objects that shouldn't be where they are, or misshapen, or too small, or too big, or skewed at an angle, or whatever you want to do.
Yeah, they're melting into the ground, or there's like, you know, wires that go to nowhere, or like, you know, a door that's really small and has like 3 doorknobs, and yeah, it's like everything is just off. Like you said, yeah, it's like having someone trying to make like a copy of a copy and getting all the details wrong, or like some instances like kind of reminded me of like if you have kids and like they love to draw and stuff, and but then sometimes they draw something and it's just like, oh, like what is this? And then it's like, oh, this is a house, and it's like, oh, like yeah, I can tell that you're trying to draw something specific, but it's not really coming out the way that you want it to, or that it would in real life.
It's definitely it gives it a very surreal atmosphere. And everything in the back rooms is like, because this is a long extended sequence of following him go from like one room to the next, going round a corner. There's some doors occasionally, some don't have openings, but no actual doors. Some of the doors don't open, that kind of thing, which is also very video gamey in a lot of ways. And like obviously watching this, we have the memory of that opening scene where something was hunting down this like scientist or whoever he was, and it's because that was the other thing I didn't know, and the trailer did not spoil this, I don't think at all, was that there was a villain in here, that there was something that might come after you in the back rooms. I thought it was going to be more about getting lost, kind of Blair Witch style, I guess, where
Sure.
you just can't find your way back to the exit and all that. And very quickly he stumbles onto like a cardboard stand-up of a guy, and there's like a little like voice box on it. Now later on it kind of seems like the scientists are using these as bait to try and like lure whatever entities are in here, but he stumbles onto it. He goes looking around and he ends up finding like there's a camera up on the wall, which is just a scientist camera, because we cut to Mark Duplass watching him on a screen being like, who is this guy? How did he get in here? So more on that later. But he finds this little door with like a bag, and there's like sort of like floppy disks and stuff in it. But then he crawls through this tunnel, and he gets to this other room, which is kind of weird. It kind of sinks down into like a sort of square hole where there's just a bunch of chairs stuck down there. And there's like a slope on the other side of the room going up to a little door with 3 knobs, as you mentioned earlier. But as he's crawling back to just go back the way he came, like something destroys that cardboard stand-up. You just see like the cardboard come flying into the room, and it becomes a bit of like a tense chase scene where he's like trying to like get away, and he crawls back. He goes up the little door with the little handles, and he ends up kind of like near enough where he started. He sees the stop sign, so he knows he's round the corner from the exit. And he gets out. But when he actually comes back in quickly to grab one of the chairs that's there to take it back out. I think he's just testing, can I take something out with me? Like, if I bring this stuff into the real world, is it going to come with me? And it does. He brings a chair out and it's there, and he's like, okay, that's freaky. So this is kind of the first big set piece of the movie, the discovery of the Backrooms.
First thing I say is that this guy is so much braver than I am. Like, I would probably get like maybe 2 rooms deep and be like, okay, screw this. And like, if I am gonna go back in, I need like a lot more people and
a SWAT team.
I don't know. Yeah. But even if you're exploring for a bit more, like, when he sees that like cardboard cutout, and it's like from far away, so he thinks it's like a person at first, and he's calling out, he's like, hello, and then the person's not like moving or doing anything, and he's like approaching it. I'm like, geez, I would run back so far. But I mean, I think this is I love the sequence though, because it's like really does a good job of exploring the space, and
it's probably like a good like 10 minutes long, maybe 15 minutes long even, like from when he enters in to like when he gets back out again. It's a long sequence of him going around and looking and not finding much.
And again, there's just it's very effective in the way that it's just like stuff is so slightly off, and that makes it like that unsettling. And I mean, maybe that's like the benefit of having like a younger non like studio person or whatever, because you can imagine if like some just Hollywood hack was doing this, then like they would overdo it, and they would make like every room be creepy and have like these like Annabelle doll kind of things, and there's like you can imagine like the bad version of that. But it's just so much more unsettling to be like, okay, this kind of looks like a boring office place, but then there's like one thing off about it or whatever. And then yeah, like, for a while I kind of like forgot that, oh yeah, there's like monsters or whatever in here. And then once we get into kind of a chase sequence, I thought it was a great job of like building tension. And for me, like the scariest part of that wasn't necessarily the thing that's chasing you. It's like, are you going to remember your way back out? Because it's like, the rooms are so confusing. And at this point I wasn't sure if like, are these like, is this a set environment or does it change or whatever? And then
I was wondering that too. I think later in the movie it's quite clear that no, it is the same like layout when he goes back. Whenever anyone goes back in, it's the same room, and then they go down round the side corner and there's that stop signs there. It's like no. There is a consistency to this, at least until something new is added, I guess. Maybe it would change a little bit at that point.
Yeah, like it expands, but it doesn't necessarily seem like like the other places are like destroyed or whatever. And then I thought it was pretty tense once he gets back to the start, but he doesn't go through the wall right away because he's not like, he's in the same room, but he's not at the exact spot that you can go through or whatever. So
he's like 6 foot like further to the left, so he's like, no, I can't go. And then he sort of like goes along the wall until his hands go. And he's like, oh, thank. And he goes, it's like so.
Yeah.
It's a fun, tense moment. Yeah, there's like him just eagerly searching for which part of the wall is going to let him go through.
Yeah, and then once he does get back out, like you say, he goes back and like gets the chair and stuff. But then I do like that. There's like a little bit where he's kind of holding it like a weapon because he's like, okay, is that thing that is following me? Is it gonna come out into the our world too? Which, I guess we never really go into it. Like, can they come into our world?
I think the answer is no, at least for now. But it's kind of like, well, if the buttons are starting to bleed through from the back rooms, is it possible that eventually, like stuff will come through? Or
because I again don't want to skip too far ahead, but like towards the end, it seems like, the whatever those scientists, Mark Duplass people or whatever, they have like one of the creatures on like a table or whatever. But I'm not sure if they were technically like still in the back rooms or if they.
I don't think so, but I think in the same way that we saw Clark take out a chair, I think if
like they took it out,
they can take something out, but I don't think it would walk through one of the portals or the gates to the outside world. Again, they don't really give us enough to say for definite that's the case, but I mean, certainly nothing in the movie suggests that they can go through the thing on their own.
Yeah, and just to be clear, like, I don't really want like clear answers like that. Like, it's just fun to talk about and kind of theorize, which I'm guessing is probably like the appeal of the original YouTube series, because I feel like, like, I mean, people like lore and stuff, and like, I don't know if this is maybe an unfair comparison or something, but like, not completely, but in some ways I was like, oh, this is like a much infinitely better version of like Five Nights at Freddy's or something. It's like, I feel like, I don't know, in a similar way where like people are really into that lore or whatever, but like, that movie was just horrible, and like, we didn't care about any of the characters or the stuff they're building up or whatever. But I don't know, to me, like, there's some things I was like, oh, this feels like a much better version of that, including like, when we get kind of, I guess, the big monster at the end, it is like, okay, this is kind of like a messed up version of a like mascot kind of character, you know what I mean?
Kinda,
like,
yeah. Well, that's just the end. I mean, that's the monster the entire time.
Sure. Yeah. But I feel like you don't really like actually see it until
but
like what it is.
But you get enough of a tease of it that it's pretty clear later on that it was always that, like, because the white head later on, you're like, oh, it's that. Like, that's what the white head is. Because again, I think maybe you get one quick glimpse like of a shadow or a silhouette chasing Clark during this segment, but I mean. He tries to talk to his therapist about it. She clearly doesn't believe him. He's adamant to prove. There is a bit of a time skip there, though, because, I mean, it's clear, obviously, once he takes the other two characters in, that he's been coming in and out for at least a week or something like that. But I think even before he goes to the therapist, because he's drawn like a map, I think he's been in and out like a few times. That's why he's not been sleeping, is because he's been up exploring the back rooms every night.
Yeah, and there's a nice little detail in one of the therapy sessions where like he mentions that he was like a failed architect, which which is it's just a nice little bit. Oh, okay, like that. You know, I don't. In a way, that almost feels like a superpower in the Backrooms. I feel like, oh, if you're someone that like knows structural design and can like map things out, like that's a a plus in this world.
Yeah. Oh, I would like to point out, he doesn't say he's a failed architect. He says he is an architect when someone accuses him of failing to be an architect. So he's not quite accepted that he's a failure in that front. But no, you're right. He's like drawing like the maps and try to like map it out and whatnot. And he goes to his little duo, his like employee and her boyfriend who are making the commercial. He's like, hey, I'll pay you to come and help me with research tomorrow. And they're like, research? He's like, bring your camera. Let's go get the camera.
Did you recognize the person that played Kat? Like, I feel like I've seen her before, but I couldn't like
not
pick
particularly,
where from.
But I'll click on her and see if she pops up from anything. I mean, I've not seen it, but she was in the TV show Shrinking. You might have watched that.
I have it on my queue, but I haven't checked it out yet. I've heard it's pretty decent.
I mean, in that case, I don't know what else. I don't recognize any of these other titles.
I don't know. I thought she kind of looked familiar, but I couldn't place it.
Maybe she just looks similar to someone else. Maybe that's all it is.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, he gets them to come in, and there's a nice touch though that when they show up, as soon as the boyfriend character, Bobby, turns on like the old camcorder, it switches to just that for like this entire trip into the back rooms. And I think it's pretty cool because it's like found footage in small doses can be very effective, but obviously the gimmick of having your entire movie be found footage usually makes it pretty tiring by the end, and like a lot of gimmicky moments to justify why we're still filming. But none of that applies here because it's like, no, it's found footage for when it makes sense for them to be filming, but you know, once that would be over, it's over, and we're moving on to like normal filmmaking after that. So very, very effective. And then obviously the fact that it's the old kind of like, you know, VHS looking and all that just adds an extra level of creepiness and distortion to everything. But yeah, we actually get the POV shot of the camera going through the wall, and like, you know, the bright light of the room kind of like, you know, hitting them like that.
Yeah, I really liked all this stuff. Like, you know, I'm a pretty big fan of found footage. It's just, yeah, we don't always get like a ton of great ones. But I mean, yeah, this is a perfect example of like, oh yeah, you can do like, you know, segments of it. It doesn't have to be the whole movie, but yeah, when like the parts that it is, like, you know, it needs it. I could be completely wrong. Like I was looking up like just like some like I was just typing in like some of like the series stuff like on YouTube just to kind of get a taste of it. Like I only watched like, you know, a few minutes of the first one or whatever, but it seemed like it also had this kind of found footage feel to it. So I was wondering if this is maybe kind of a nod to that. But I mean, again, I haven't watched like the whole series or anything. I don't know if they move away from that, but it would make more sense if that's like, yeah, kind of a found footage thing.
Well, those would be very, very low budget in comparison to this movie. So I would found footage would make some sense for the shorts. It's because it makes a conscious choice though, right? Because like it'd be very easy for them to like cut or like, you know, constantly switch like, oh, here's like some of the found footage, let's cut to a normal shot of like another character. But no, once he turns on the camera, it's like no, this is just that camera now for the next 10 minutes as we're going through the back rooms, and we're, you know, like Bobby, the boyfriend, is like, oh, this is kind of weird and cool. Kat is like, this is awful. What? No, this is creepy. I don't like being in here. Can we leave? I want to get out of here. And the reason why he's brought them in here is because there's parts that he can't get to, because, you know, one of the things we've not really mentioned yet is that it's not all just flat surfaces. Like, you know, he takes them to like a really steep slope, almost like a chute going down to another area. And he's like, hey, Bobby, let's tie you up with this rope and lower you down with the camera. And Kat's like, no, I don't want to do that. That sounds like a terrible idea. But Bobby's like, no, I want to see what's down there. Let's go. Let's keep searching. And this is where it all kind of like, you know, starts to go horribly wrong for everyone, because he goes down there, there's piles of clothes all around. It's notably much dirtier in this room that he goes into. Like, it feels a lot more run down. Notably, there's like pieces of one of those cardboard like cutouts, you know, the man that was there earlier, like just on top of one of the piles of clothes.
And then he also finds a shirt that was basically like a shirt that he was wearing earlier. Like I think from the first scene of him. So that's like, oh, that's like, you know, kind of unsettling.
Yeah. And then of course he looks around the corner that he's trying to get to, and he sees like, again, like just the outline of this monster, whoever he is. And he's like, oh shit. And he tries to run back up. They try to pull him back up and all the rest of it. But when he does get back up, the monster pulls on the rope that he's still attached to and starts dragging him down. They try and hold on to him, but he gets yanked. And with him goes Clark. Clark goes down as well, and he's got the camera now. And like, so like we get like an extended sequence of Clark being the one holding the camera. And this is where we get a lot more variety in locations. We see him go into like a sort of bathroom area that's all tiles and stuff like that, and has some like weird, again, layouts and details. A lot of running. There's a part where he runs past like, again, like a weird long kind of, it's almost like it was meant to be like a counter in a hotel or something like that, like where you would go to like check in, but it's like stretched out and goes down like a hallway. But I guess the creepiest thing he encounters here really is the Christmas room, which I think you know, people are going to call out as being like a big bit, because this is where he goes in and like, it's dark, it's lit up only by a Christmas tree in the middle of the room, but when he walks around the Christmas tree, and there's also mannequins kind of like sort of sticking out the floor at weird angles, but when he goes around the Christmas tree, there's kind of, it looks like someone's sitting there in front of it. And then you just see like a hand pull like a little cord on the lamp next to him, and there's like a person kinda, but like very still, possibly like a mannequin that can move. It's kind of hard to tell. But then there's like another kind of, again, quote unquote person, like a woman who's got like a weird face and kind of like sort of starts walking towards him. It's very full on like, oh, we're doing creepy shit now. Like, this is like,
yeah,
you know. But this is the sort of thing where you're right. If like this was like a bigger Hollywood, like sort of, I don't know, more generic movie, there would be like tons of this stuff in every room. It would be like every room, creepy. This is like, no, 5 rooms of empty, 1 room with 1 creepy thing. Way more effective.
Oh, absolutely, yeah. And I like the design of the woman, because it looks like it kind of has like this like windswept hair, but it's like kind of just frozen in place. So
yeah,
like again, it's probably like, oh, the rooms or whatever that creator probably is like, oh, like this woman on a breezy day or whatever, and then it just like, but it just sticks there. It's just like off-putting.
Yeah.
But I mean, this whole sequence, like once it starts, so it's like a really good like action scene. Like it you know, there's so many rooms to run through it. It never really like lets up. So yeah, it's all very good. And then I think is it that like Kat gets thrown down with him too, or is she like up top and then like runs? Because then they kind of like reconvene, like, but like in a place where they're like a room apart.
Yeah, she doesn't go down the chute. She's like separate from him, and eventually Clark gets into a room where he hears her voice, and she's like yelling through the wall at him. And we never see this from her perspective, so we never get to see what this looks like. But she can see him, and she's like, oh, I can see you through the glass. But on his side, the side that we're on, there is no glass. It's just the wall, which is very interesting. It kind of suggests that on like almost like a one-way mirror, except on this side, it doesn't even look like glass. It just looks like a wall. So it's like this like weird optical illusion where she can see through to him, but he can't see through to her. And I'm like, oh, I wonder what other weird optical or like anomalies like that could happen. But he puts the camera down on the table when he goes to try and like talk to her and like try to like maybe find an opening. And you see that the camera gets picked up. Like whatever this monster is picks up the camera. And that's obviously a creepy moment because like, well, there's no one else that can be picking it up. And when he turns around and sees whatever it is, that's when the scene ends, and we leave it off all ambiguous for other characters to pick up.
Yeah, it's all really well done. Like again, it all felt like, very like action packed, and then like, this final scene, it's a nice little like breather. Like it feels like things have calmed down, but then it's like even creepier because yeah, they are like seeing different things, and then just, the very like slow someone grabbing the camera and pulling it up is just like, very well done and creepy. And then yeah, I was kind of surprised because I was like, oh, I thought this is the guy that we're going to be following the whole movie. And yeah, pulls like a little bit of a switcheroo where, it's I mean, obviously, comes back later and stuff, but I was like, oh, I didn't realize that. Yeah, we're going to be switching to like someone else for a bit.
Yeah, I mean, I think I was expecting that just because the trailer kind of the trailer was almost structured like that, where it focused on him and then switched to Mary. So I was kind of expecting the movie to do the same thing, where she basically gets involved because he leaves this weird answering message on her answering machine where he's like, I can't remember what the line was. He says he's found something or something like that, but he says, "Oh, I won't be coming back," and it sounds like, oh, like potentially he's a danger to himself or something. He sounds like he's, she's worried about him. She's making a wellness check effectively by going to the store to check on him. And like obviously there's like little snippets of her throughout. Like she sells like a self-help like book / tape set, which we see the commercial for that as well. So even she's got her own commercial. Everyone in this movie's got some sort of commercial to put on TV. And hers is the old school, like phone to order this tape collection kind of thing, which I do remember those ads playing when I was a kid. Nothing as like small and local as hers, but like certainly like, hey, here's like 10 CDs with all the best love songs that have ever been recorded. Buy the set today, kind of thing.
And I think like the little snippets we get of like the audiobook or whatever, it seems like she's talking again like very on theme, but like about like, oh, how we all get caught in these like repeating cycles or whatever, and like trying to break free of them.
Yeah, it's this idea that we kind of keep going in circles and we end up feeling unhappy because we never break out of them, kind of thing. And that kind of fits into like literally what happens when you're in the back rooms, is you end up sort of circling in memories and not being able to get out.
Real quick too, like I don't know, like I don't want to sound like dismissive or anything. Like I don't necessarily think that it wasn't well done, but I don't know, like I found that like, I just didn't really care about her backstory that much. Like when they cut to some of the flashbacks, like I don't think they're bad, but I don't know, they didn't really do much for me. I don't know how you felt about them.
No, I mean, I think that's fair. I mean, I don't necessarily have a problem with them, but like, I mean, now you're asking me about it, I'm like, yeah, it's probably the part of the movie I cared the least. It feels the most I don't know, it feels the most generic to just have these flashbacks of her and her mother kind of thing, like, oh, her childhood trauma of what she went through with her mother, and like obviously it relates, it's important for her character to an extent because of the choices she makes later. Whereas Clark kind of wants to stay in his wallow in his misery and stay in his bad memories, she actually wants to move on from her pain. So it's important to set up what her pain is. It's important to set up what she needs to move on from. Maybe there was a more interesting way of doing it than just here's like 2 or 3 flashbacks of her and her mother when she was a kid.
Yeah, it's interesting because again, I'm not trying to be like, oh, this part sucked, to like remove it from the movie. Like, no, I think it's like perfectly fine. I just didn't find that maybe I didn't really need it that much, but I'm not like, I don't hate it or anything.
I think you had to set up some of it for her character, but I think there may have been a more interesting way of having it come up. Maybe I don't know, maybe she shared something during her therapy session or something with Clark to try and help him, or I don't know. But as it is, though, she ultimately decides to go in and check on him, and she goes into the store and there's a bunch of mail, so it's been a little while since he's been collecting things or living in the world, and she looks around and the lights are flickering and all that. I will say maybe like the one element that, it's not even like a full element, to be honest, that's even maybe too strong a word, but when she goes into the store, there is a light flickering at the stairs to go down to that sub-level where the entrance to the back rooms is, and it almost felt like some force wanted her to find it. And that was like the one little thing where I was like, I don't know if I like the idea of the back rooms having like a sentience or like having like a desire to pull someone in. I kind of like the idea of it being a complete accident and like nothing's controlling it kind of thing. Fair. So it's such a small detail, but I was like, I get that she has to find it, but he's already told her about this weird entrance to another secret area in the basement area, so she has enough reason to go down there and snoop around anyway. I don't think we needed the flickering light to like direct her. So it's a very, very minor quibble.
Yeah, I agree. And I don't think we mentioned it the last time when like the Kat and her boyfriend and stuff go down there with him. But I do like that when you see the basement of his store before, it's like very like pristine and spacious. Like it's just like looks like they have like a few extra pieces of furniture and that's kind of it. And then I like every time we go there, like now it's just filled with like all this stuff that he's been bringing back. Like he's like obsessed with it. Like he's trying to like catalog and like I guess like study all this stuff. Yeah, when Mary goes through in a minute, that big pile of furniture that was there when he first went through isn't there anymore. And I'm like, oh, because at first I was thinking, oh, has something changed? And then I stopped and thought about it and went, oh no, I think he just took it all. I think all of it's just in the real world because he removed it. I was like, all right, okay. Because the stop sign's still there. When she goes around the corner and sees the stop sign, it's like, oh, that's still there. But other things are consistent. It's just that pile of furniture's been removed, and that must be him that's done that. So I like nice that detail. Yeah. So yeah, she obviously like sees the line in the wall that he's drawn around the entrance, and she sees his whiteboard with his like map and stuff on it, and she pokes her hands through, goes through. It's a whole thing. I'll tell you what I like from a cinematography perspective here is that I like how different her first time in the back rooms is shot compared to his. So when he first came in the back rooms, there was a lot of like, oh, we're going to like pan the camera around to like get the sense of space all around them, and we're going to do all this and this, and there was a lot of just more close-ups on him, and don't get me wrong, there was a lot of wide shots, but there was a lot of camera movement. With her, the camera for a lot of these, like at least first few minutes, is a lot more kind of pulled back into these big wide shots, and we see kind of just her on her own in the space. For example, when she gets to that long hallway where the first cardboard stand-up was, because she finds that same area, and that room's been kind of wrecked a little bit where the camera was. But when she finds that hallway, there's just this long, wide shot looking down the hallway at her at the other end. And it feels like it's making her feel much smaller in the space than it did with him. And maybe suggest that she feels like more intimidated by this space than he did, where he was a lot more kind of curious about everything. She's kind of like, this is, big and creepy, and like, this is a lot of space. Like, because that's the thing, if it's just the first room, you're like, okay, this is weird, there's an extra room here. But then you like turn the corner, oh, there's like a sea of extra rooms. Where does this all fit? This doesn't make any sense. But so, but once she's in there, this is where we kind of start barreling towards like all the big, like, third act climax stuff and whatnot. And the big thing is that once she goes snooping around a little bit, is there's a really good moment where we see like a glimpse of someone round a corner. And it turns out to just be Clark. But the first time you see like a little glimpse of like a shoulder and it pulls back, it's like, oh, that was creepy. Although notably, that's actually the part of the movie where you get your big like hint at what the monster is, because she finds like a drawing on a wall, and it's like almost like children have been saying, oh, you need to be scared of this thing, and you see like a drawing of the monster. And I think that's the moment where if you haven't already clocked it, you're like, wait, the monster's a pirate. The monster's some kind of pirate. And this is where it all starts to sort of come together, where Clark doesn't seem to be that scared of the monster anymore, and he says, oh, keep your voice down, it's just me, or something like that, he says, when he comes out and talks to her. But he grabs her and like chokes her out to put her to sleep, and she wakes up in a very kind of Texas Chainsaw style, sitting at the dinner table, like tied to the chair.
and he's kind of lost it, right? That's the thing. He's been in here a while. He's kind of went a bit mad. And I'll admit, when this scene started, I was kind of like, oh, I don't know if I'm super into, oh, he's went mad in here, and now he's kind of like the threat, right? I wasn't necessarily in love with this sequence. Like, I think when we get to the end of it and the stuff that it sets up, I'm like, okay, it's actually set some interesting stuff up, and it explains some stuff, and there's some good stuff that comes out of it. But I will say that I wasn't like enjoying like the tension of the scene, because I'm like, oh, he's just, it's just him went mad now, which isn't as exciting to me as the mystery of the Backrooms itself. That said, though, the big thing that it sets up is that these people, because the woman with the weird face is here, the guy with the lampshade is here, they are memories, right? He explains that this Backrooms, whatever it is just building things from memory, and that includes some people. And that's what these things are. And the big reveal is the monster is a big version of him, but specifically the version of him in the commercial, the pirate version. And I did like this reveal, because this idea of that line that he said at the therapist office back at the start of the movie is, I hurt people. I don't like that I hurt people, but I always do. So the idea that the Backrooms has created a version of him that just hurts people and just like kills them and eats them or whatever he does. And he looks like he's big. He's got like a overly weird big face, and it's like, again, it's like a weird Play-Doh approximation of what a human being looks like. I like the reveal of what the pirate actually is. Him sitting here acting creepy and being like, oh, is he going to kill her? Let's eat some of these people because you can eat them. Like that was like, okay, I guess we're doing weird cookie, he's went mad stuff, and I'm not necessarily as in love with that as much as I am everything else.
Yeah, again, I guess it's like kind of similar. Like, I don't hate this, but I feel like I'm on a similar level where it's like, oh yeah, the interesting thing is the mystery of, what the Backrooms are, and yeah, like, a cartoony villain, chewing the scenery and the people. Like, maybe it is not as interesting. Again, though, like, I think it helps that, like, they're just really good performers and stuff, so like they're selling it, the the eating people is like such a weird detail. Like, I guess I appreciate it, at least for the like craziness of it.
I mean, I appreciate that it's like, because part of me was thinking maybe this is a little too try hard, like to be like creepy and intimidating now. But I do appreciate that when he just puts his hand into this guy's stomach and pulls it out, it's like fluffy mashed potato that's inside him. It's not like, flesh or blood or anything like that. And it's like, okay, well, that's an interesting detail, but it's, I don't know, like, I guess, like, there's some interesting stuff thematically or character work wise by the end of the scene, which is ultimately because she like basically agrees, hey, if you want to stay here and not move on, right, both literally and figuratively, then that's okay, right? If that's what you want, I give permission for that. And he basically accepts that stuff is his fault, right? Because she gets mad at him and yells, you know what? Do you want to know what your problem is? It's because everything's always everyone else's fault, and you never take responsibility for all the things in your life that have went wrong because of you. And after that, he basically accepts this and says that he wants to stay here. He'd rather wallow in his like weird memories of things gone by and live his married life again than ever like admit what he's done. But because he accepts this, immediately the pirate monster version of him turns on him. Because the pirate shows up and he's like, wait, what are you doing here? You're not supposed to be here. And the pirate like grabs him and like bites his face off or whatever it is, or rips his face off. And it's like, oh, well, it turned on him. Why did it turn on him? Well, I think it turned on him because he's no longer like the source of like the memories that the Backrooms was getting from him. It's almost like it's a betrayal to this like monstrous version of him that he was willing to accept that he was kind of the bad guy in a way. So I like kind of that character work part by the end of the scene. Him acting crazy and like, oh, maybe he'll kill her or eat her or something. was less exciting to me, especially since it was such a abrupt thing, because it was like, oh, the last time we saw him, it was like, oh, he was getting chased by the monster, we end on the cliffhanger, we come back, and he's just kind of turned into, Cookie, I've lost my mind. Like, that was probably the least exciting plot element to me, even though by the end of this scene, it did feel like it, like, did some interesting things to, like, get into like, the you know, what it was doing with the characters. Of course, though, before he does get killed, he does, like, free her hands. He kind of accepts to let her go, and pirate Clark can't have that apparently.
Yeah.
So this starts her big chase, of course, get into all the actiony stuff here at the end.
Yeah, the detail that I really liked about this scene is when the pirate monster is coming. The other monsters like freak out as well, so it's like, oh, he's not only like a threat to like, and it's just like a very like, again, kind of like unsettling moment when you have the the female thing, like, it gets really scared and runs away, and it's just like running into a corner, like it can't move, or like it's just again, doesn't know what it's doing.
It's like an NPC in a video game that's breaking and doesn't know that it can't walk through a wall. It just keeps trying to walk out of this corner over and over again.
But I thought that was like a really nice touch. And then not to always like compare stuff like like to video game stuff, but it kind of reminds me of like like in Silent Hill 2 when you have like the pyramid head, like kind of like the big bad guy, but it's like, oh, also like other monsters are afraid of him too, so it's like, oh, this is like a big threat. I do like the idea of it. I don't know if I necessarily like loved like the look of it, like I think it works in the movie, like because even if you like, oh, it's like a bit like CGI or kind of off putting looking or whatever, it's like, well, that makes sense because it is like again supposed to be like the weird Backrooms version of this, so I think it works, but I don't know, I just like it didn't really come off as maybe as creepy or menacing as I feel like a lot of other stuff I'd seen in the movie. Again, like I didn't hate it, it's just like maybe didn't wow me as much as I would have liked.
I think I liked it because I understood what it was, more so than like, if you said you just made a movie and this was what the monster looked like, I'd be like, oh, that's kind of weird and lame. Yeah. But because I understood the context of it, so it's this weird recreation of someone, and even just this idea that like the Backrooms interpreted what type of person he was into this literal monster. It's kind of like any metaphor ever where like like, oh, this is like the monster you really are, or like or even like something like the Wolf of Snow Hollow, where like, oh, like you on alcohol is a monster, so this is how it's represented, kind of thing. That's kind of what this big pirate version of him was to me. It was kind of like the again not accurate necessarily, but certainly how something is interpreted who he is and what his bad sides are. And that's the villain.
Like story-wise, I think it works, and I'm not mad at the idea about it. It's just like, I guess, just kind of an aesthetic kind of thing. But again, like a minor quibble. Like it's not like it turned the movie off for me or anything. Yeah.
So yeah, big chase here where pirates chasing after her. And she goes through some doors, and there's like sort of recreations of like a street outside when she goes through the door. But obviously it's inside like a big room, so there's that creepiness. The room, obviously, there was a lot of CG being used, is the one where it's like an infinite drop, where there's just like, it's almost like just like the interior of lots of apartments going all the way down into infinity, and there's like this weird staircase that's sort of like got up to a door that's in the ceiling. Because that was one of the other things that I liked early on, actually, is I think it's when Bobby was down in the clothes area. There was like just doors on the ceiling, as if like perspective had changed at some point, or gravity had flipped. So I was like, okay, that's an interesting off-putting vibe.
The only thing that's driving me crazy about this scene is I thought she was taking so long to get to the door. Like she's just waiting for the monster to like burst through and crawl out, and I was just like, for God's sakes, like I know it's like weird and off-putting, like, but the door is there, like, just go through it.
Yeah, I did like every time like she turned back though, and there was just like the first glimpses of the pirate coming through the openings or whatever. I did think looked good typically. Yeah, when she goes through the door though, it ends up being like a recreation of the store, right? Of the furniture store. And
for a second I thought like, oh, did she make it out? Like, is this another entrance like back into the world?
Well, no, because you can see actually when she goes up to the door, there's just like one of those yellow walls like right behind the door, like you know the front entrance with the glass doors. Yeah. You can just see there's a wall right behind it. But yeah, there's like there's one of these cardboard stand-ups in the middle of the room connected to all these like canisters with gas like around. And again, you don't quite get it yet, but later on when you see her getting taken through the lab, you're like, there's like a storage room with just tons of these stand-ups, and it's like, oh, this is something the scientists have been doing to lure things like this pirate. But yeah, there's a great moment here where she turns around after trying to get out, and the pirate's already just standing there. Like, it's already in the room looking at her. Yeah. So she has to kind of like run and get away from it, and the whole give and chase and all the rest of it. Ultimately, the trap gets triggered, and like, the gas canisters start kind of, you know, unloading into the room, which also knocks her out. And she ends up running into like the hazmat suit guys, and they're like, "Who the hell are you? What are you doing in here?" And that's how she ultimately gets out of it.
Not before, like, because she also like beats the crap out of it with the little handprint, like stone.
Yeah,
thing.
She also smashes his peg leg in with like a.
Yeah,
like a big bit of furniture. I don't even know what it was she picked up. It was some big. It was a big, like the big post from like a tall bed or something. She sort of smashed his peg leg in to try to slow him down a little bit. Which, to be fair, if he's got a peg leg and you take away his peg, you know, he's you know, mobility's been hampered somewhat there. So
yeah, like he's not like he's still like. That's one thing that's kind of neat about all this stuff is that. It seems to be more like, as weird as it is, it's like it seems like there's some type of scientific explanation versus like a supernatural thing. Because yeah, if it was supernatural, then like stuff like that wouldn't matter. It would, you know, regrow its leg or fly in the air or something. But I like that it's still like bound by, you know, whatever laws of physics there are.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. It's still, the physics still applies to it, right? I mean, you could argue, I suppose, if the Backrooms itself is supernatural in origin or scientific in origin, but certainly everything it creates seems to still be bound by rules of like physics and force and, you know, whatever else, right? These things can be killed if you have or maybe kill's not even the right word, but you know what I mean. They can be stopped, right? They can be trapped if you try hard enough. So yeah, she runs into these scientist guys who like basically carry, because she's like half knocked out at this point because of the gas, and like they drag her off, and we see her getting taken to like a lab area. We see that room with all the stand-ups, and we see a room where it's like they're doing an autopsy on the pirate, like they've captured it, they've killed it, whatever. And a good time to mention here, so earlier in the movie we said that Mark Duplass was watching on a TV screen. He was watching Clark walk through the back rooms. We also see him later on at home with his family. They're watching The Never-Ending Story randomly, and which arguably maybe that's also a little thematic hint, the idea that these backrooms are never ending. It's always building more to story. But the pirate commercial comes on and he recognizes him. He's like, oh shit. And so you're like, okay, he's going to pop back up in a big way. And sure enough, here at the end, he comes into like a little meeting room where she's waiting for him. And she's like, what is this place? Who are you? What's going on? And he's like, hey, can I just ask you some questions? Like, you know, why were you here? How did you get into the back rooms? Blah, blah. And the implication from this conversation is that they've been like studying this place for a while. And these like new entrances that are popping up, and there's possibly more than one, and they're happening more and more, are like kind of like unforeseen things that are happening. Like this entrance in the department store was just completely an anomaly that they couldn't have predicted. Because I was thinking early on maybe they did something that caused the back rooms. That doesn't seem to be the case. Here, he basically says, you know, this science company used to make MRI machines, but we have completely given up in that, and now we're all about just investigating the back rooms because we want to understand it. And that's felt like almost like a wink to like the audience who like obsesses over lore and mystery and wants to like just find out more answers. Because he's like, oh, I just want to know just a little bit more about it. Just a little nugget, anything at all would be great.
It is such a weird detail. I was like, okay, so wait, what does like working with MRIs have to do with this? Like, is there some type of like connection, or is it just like completely random?
Is it maybe the first ever like entrance, or at least the one that this team discovered was like, I don't know, next to an MRI machine? I have no idea.
Yeah. And then, like I was kind of saying before, like it's funny because in terms of like wanting answers and stuff as to what the Backrooms are, like I don't really care about any of that. Like I think we got enough of a satisfying explanation where it's just like, oh, okay, it's just this place that copies things from the real world, but it gets it wrong and it's off and unsettling. Like that's all I don't really need to know any more than that. But yeah, when this final scene with Mark Duplass and stuff, like, yeah, that's like the stuff I'm actually much more interested in. I'm like, okay, so wait, how did you guys discover, and like what have you been doing with your research, and like how do you handle like, you know, like sending people in, and like what are you like, you know, like I don't know, that stuff to me is like where I'm kind of like, okay, wait, I want to know more about this. Like I don't want to know like specifically about the Backrooms, but like what you guys are doing with it.
Yeah, like it's interesting, 'cause it's almost this idea of like a shared consciousness that's kind of formed this space, and like they're obsessed with exploring it and trying to figure out what it is. There's definitely like more to milk there if they want to do, like if they do a sequel, absolutely they should delve into more of this like scientist side of like their research into it. I think one of the details that I kind of like though, thinking about it in hindsight, is that in the opening scene that clearly is the pirate that kills that guy at the start. And I don't know if the implication there is that scene actually takes place after Clark goes in for the first time. Like maybe he's just went into the place at that moment and that's why this thing's been created. Or did it create this version of Clark before he went in because he was close to an entrance, because it was like taking things, you know, that's why there's so much furniture in there when he first goes in, because it's right next to the furniture store entrance. So there's a lot of like stuff that's relevant to what's like just outside that particular entrance that's popping up. For example, like the stop sign that he sees, we see him looking at a stop sign in the real world just before he goes into work. So there's like stuff that's set up in the outside that then appears in some form in the Backrooms. So I'm wondering if like the pirate was created a little bit in advance and it's told in order, or is that opening scene actually a little bit like around the same time or slightly after when Clark goes in for the first time? But either way, it doesn't really matter. But like, I just think it's interesting that they don't know why all of a sudden there's this evil pirate like stomping around, because maybe up until that point there wasn't anything that dangerous like in there. Maybe it had been fairly easygoing, and then all of a sudden, why is there a demonic pirate? This makes no goddamn sense. And I think even thematically, the fact that it's like an old school pirate, and like these other commercials with the old school like cowboy was the other furniture store guy, even that's kind of a nostalgia thing. It's like, hey, the goofy version of what we think of as a classic character is used to sell stuff. It's used to elicit that nostalgia, you know, dopamine response in your brain. So I think that this movie's talking a lot about memories, some of them traumatic, of course. I mean, one of the big things that we get into here with the ending is that the final shots show that the Backrooms has now created Mary's childhood house, where her mother was agoraphobic and like locked her inside. That also, one when it was destroyed, one when it was like perfectly still intact, and then ultimately the final shot of the movie is the fake version of Mary the Backrooms is now created, with her face all kind of like duplicating parts of it and like kind of out of order and whatnot. And that's the shot the movie ends on, is that kind of weird like, oh, now there's just a weird memory of her in there that will always exist.
Yeah, I thought it was a very effective shot. Like, it looked cool, and again, yeah, I'm using it a lot, but it's just like, you know, it's just off-putting. You know, like the way it's just like, oh yeah, it's just not quite right. Everything's like slightly out of place, and that was a nice little, you know, beat to end on. Yeah,
there was a nice transition. I don't remember if it was before the end or maybe before she woke up at the dinner sort of scene, quote unquote, is when the camera does this thing where it sort of goes down, and it goes down like several floors, and it shows like her childhood home where her mother kept her locked in, and it went down a floor, and it kind of became like, you know, more kind of new and clean. Then it went down again, and it became almost empty. Then it came down again, and then it eventually kept going until it was just a square room with nothing in it. It just looked like a regular Backrooms room, but it was like it was getting more filtered out every time we went down a level, which does make me wonder, like, can you literally just go through, like, if you keep going down, do you keep getting like more and more towards just empty space and back rooms that haven't been filled with anything yet? So that's also an interesting idea. But I mean, like, hey, there's a lot to think about. Like, it really gets the mind going. There's a lot to kind of process, this idea of how we obsess over memories, both good and bad. Sometimes it's nostalgia, sometimes it's trauma, sometimes it's something we just can't let go of, you know, all that kind of thing. And how they kind of get warped in time, where, you know, we misremember details or whatever. And the Backrooms is kind of this weird space where all of these things just exist, and our trauma might come alive and start hurting someone else. Which can also just represent the idea that, yeah, if you're someone who has trauma, you might hurt other people, even if you don't mean to, with how you treat them. In the Backrooms, it's more literal. Like, it's just, here's my trauma. It's a 8-foot tall pirate, and it's going to kill you.
No, I mean, it's all very effective. Yeah, definitely, like, you know, has stuck with me. There's a lot of fun, like, stuff to think about. And yeah, I feel like, you know, it'll be an interesting one to revisit. And I feel like, you know, there are some things that you're mentioning that I was like, oh, well, yeah, I probably didn't like catch that on, you know, this first initial viewing, but going back and rewatching him, I'd be like, oh yeah, that's like, you know, something that gets recreated in one of the rooms later, or you know, stuff. Oh, like
yeah,
that.
I bet there's tons of little things that it's easy to not notice the first time. We're like, oh, this item was shown in this, like the real world had this in the background in this scene, and then later on you see it in the back rooms, but kind of off. Like I bet there's tons of little bits like that in there that you might start noticing on a repeat viewing. Yeah, I know. I mean, I think it's very good. I might even be touching on great. Honestly, it's just. Mm-hmm. There's just a couple of story elements that I don't, I guess, love, and that's the one thing that kind of holds it back. I think conceptually, it's fantastic. I think it's well directed. It's got creepy sequences. It's just a couple of things, like, you know, the Clark going crazy at the dinner table. Is again, by the end of it, I get the point of like what it's setting up, but I never really enjoyed that direction for the character. I thought it was maybe there was maybe a more kind of subtle way to get these ideas across with him in here. But the idea that he's able to coexist with his trauma in here is an interesting thing. It's just that having him go kind of mad, and like, you know, the idea that the girl's head, the cat, her head's just in the fridge, and he's like, oh, I tried to help her, but it didn't work. I'm like, the way he just kind of brushes that off, I'm like, yeah, that's just to sound creepy, and like you went crazy. And I think, because at that point you're not really a character anymore. I think I would have preferred if he was like he's accepted that he's in here and he's accepted the things around him, but he's not like just raging mad, because that's how he feels for a lot of that scene. Yeah,
for sure. I think I guess it's like a nice little shock or whatever, but yeah, the head in the fridge felt like a step too far.
Like, it felt like something out of a cheaper horror movie, I guess I'll say.
Yeah. Because, like, even the eating people, like, yeah, that is kind of, like, weird, but it's like, well, I guess if you're living here, you need some type of sustenance or whatever, so, like, it's, you know, I guess technically it makes sense, you know?
Technically it makes sense. I don't know if I agree with that phrase 100%, but I get what you're saying. But, yeah.
Because yeah, like, we're assuming that he's pretty much staying here all the time now. Like, he's not going out for food runs or whatever.
Yeah. Well, I would assume the Backrooms was recreating food somewhere. Like, can you affect what it's creating if you think really hard about a memory of a kitchen? Will a kitchen appear somewhere?
That's a good point. But I mean, would you trust some food that it creates? Like, I don't know.
I mean, I'm not saying you should. I'm just saying, like, if you're that cuckoo that you're staying in here all the time, then maybe you're not that fussed about it.
The other thing they don't really go into is, like, I'm curious what the bathroom situation is like there. Like, you're like, oh man, like I really got to go, and then you like go into a room and like the toilet's on the ceiling, like ah, god damn it.
I think you just pick a room and just go in the corner and then just
Okay.
Can I get some plumbing in here, please? There is an implication that it's pulling on electricity from the real world, which does imply that it's using energy to create what it's creating. So that's kind of interesting. Yeah. Again, maybe that leads to that idea of like it being like the signals and the electricity and like it's being created out of like the stuff that we use, like the, I don't know, and the periphery of the real world, literally in this case. I don't know. Cool thought process stuff. Interesting times. All right, Tim, what are you rating Backrooms out of 10?
I mean, again, in a lot of ways, it's very impressive. I think it looks great. I like the performances. The Backrooms themselves are intriguing and unsettling and off-putting. So yeah, I mean, there's a lot of stuff I really liked about it. There's like a few like nitpicks and stuff here and there that aren't like major things, but just like, yeah, some little stuff like story-wise and things here and there just bump it down a little bit to me, but I'm still going to give it a pretty high score. I think I'm going to go with an 8. I mean, potentially I'll probably rewatch it again, and who knows, maybe after like, give another chance, like it could maybe get bumped up a little bit or something. But I think for right now, just an 8, which like it's very good, very solid. Maybe just not like the, revelation like coming out of it, like some of the other like Obsession and Hokum and stuff, which I just really loved him. So very happy about, still very happy about this, but just not like a slam dunk 10 out of 10 for me, but it's still very good.
Yeah, I think I'm probably landing on an 8 as well. I think it gets there. I think there's enough interesting stuff and concepts and cool scenes and cool lore to make your mind think about stuff, and the absurdity of it's really good. It's got a nice eerie feeling to it. But there's just a couple of plot things or a couple of stuff that maybe could have been fleshed out a little that would have, or handled slightly differently, that would have propelled it even higher into like worth like singing about territory. And because it came out close to other movies that had that feeling, it by comparison feels a little lesser, but like it's still very good, and still, like it probably actually really helped this movie that we got Passenger in between, just to reset the palette a little bit and be like, oh, that still is like night and day above anything Passenger was or was trying to be. So no, it's still great, but yeah, I would definitely be picking some of the other recent hits over it if I'm comparing them. Not that you have to, of course, but they're all really close together, so worth mentioning. So there you go. That is Backrooms, and next time on Streams After Midnight, we have to go into another type of Backrooms, but in these Backrooms, it recreates things from previous bad Resident Evil movies. Alice is going to go through the Umbrella Backrooms. And it kind of is. It's literally like, here's like a suburban neighborhood and like an underground dome, and here's like this part of Tokyo in an underground dome. Like it's anyway, the next Resident Evil movie, Resident Evil Retribution, which is the 5th one of the first 6, because we're going to have all those done before the new one comes out. So we're getting that next week. And then after that, we start working through other 2026 movies that came out earlier in the year that we didn't get to at the time. So back to some more new stuff after that. But dropping off in bad Resident Evil movie territory next time, though. But yeah, that is Screams After Midnight, everyone. You can let us know what you thought of Backrooms in the comments. If you want to support the show and help keep it coming, as well as all the other movie podcasts from Mail Fuzz Movies, you can do that over at patreon.com/MailFuzzTV. Get access to the Even More Stream segments, which we do most weeks. There's a back catalogue of bonus episodes. We have got one planned still. We get delayed a little bit. It'll be coming maybe more middle or so of June now, but we've got that coming up. But yeah, you get bonuses for other shows as well, and so head over there. Thanks to everyone who already does support us. It really does help keep the show coming. That's been Screws After Midnight, everyone. Keep watching scary movies, and we'll see you next time.